do your best to not focus on the negativity as a sign of failure, because it's not. It's a sign of an area where you can grow and learn. Well, hey there, hubby homesteaders. Welcome back to Peaks Peak. If you're new to the channel, I'm Lucas, and we're sharing our hobbies here on 38 acres in eastern Kentucky. And lately, I have gotten into cutting wood. We have a new sawmill sponsor, and we are excited to be learning how to mill lumber on our sawmill, which means we're also learning how to take down trees, how to buck up firewood, how to run chainsaws and sharpen chainsaws and tune chainsaws, and all of this stuff is, I wouldn't say it's brand new to me. I grew up on acreage and around a little bit of firewood cutting and stuff like that, but I've never done a whole lot of it. You know, I owned a chainsaw, and if a limb falls in the way, we would cut it up, but we never relied on firewood for heat, so just didn't do a whole lot of it, which means that I didn't know what I didn't know. I'm quickly learning how much I didn't know as I get into this hobby. So today's video is kind of a fun video to talk to you about my learning process. And I share everything on the channel. And so if we start a new hobby and we don't know anything about it, I'm just gonna share with you my learning process and the whole works. And sometimes it's a little bit rough on my end because I get teased and made fun of and make mistakes, and the whole world knows it. But I want to talk to you about how valuable that process can be, and how you've got to learn to glean the good information from the mean comments or the negative comments in order to grow. And that's what we're doing. So you'll remember a few weeks ago I did a test. Before I went and bought this Stihl MS362, I brought the two chainsaws that I have up here just for fun, chopped off on this log, timed it, and compared the two. Now, they both had old used chains on them that I did my best to sharpen with a file, but you know, they weren't perfect. I knew that. And so I shared that information, and I talked about how the old chainsaw with the bigger displacement had more torque and it did a better job of cutting through this. Well, I quickly found out when I shared the short on Facebook and YouTube that when hundreds of thousands of people see that and analyze it, you're gonna get made fun of a lot if you don't really know your stuff. And I'm not that great at sharpening the chain, so you know, people talked about how the sawdust was not wood chips, it was dust, and you know, all these different problems. For the most part, people are just kind of having a good time, and they pile on and they, you know, make jokes, and I don't mind that. But I also know that a lot of people just make that comment because they see other people making that comment and they think it's funny, and so they just pile on. There were a half dozen people that really knew what the problem was with my MS250. And nobody kindly explained how to go about fixing it or what the problem really was. Everybody just left a short, usually mean or backhanded comment saying, you don't know what you're talking about, basically. But what that allowed me to do is, first, I went out and I bought a new chain. When I made that video, I didn't know that there was a green chain, a yellow chain, semi-chisel, full chisel, any of that stuff. So I got clues in the comments and learned that, okay, there's different types of chains. They come with a low kickback green chain, which can be slower. So I thought, well, okay, I'll go buy a brand new full chisel chain and I'll run the saw again. So I did that, and my time only improved by like 3 seconds overall. So I felt a little bit better about my chain sharpening, because if a full chisel chain is supposed to be faster than a green chain, a low kickback chain, then 3 seconds on a 24-second cut is not that big of a percentage. My sharpening must not have been too bad. So I felt a little bit redeemed. But in the back of my mind, I still thought that's really slow and there's got to be something else going on. And you know, I should have known this because I've been around engines and dirt bikes and all of those things all my life, and I understand how important tuning is. But I'd never done anything to this saw since I bought it brand new, and I kind of assumed it would come tuned running pretty good, so really just didn't give it much thought. Poor tuning coupled with a pretty dirty air filter becomes a real problem in the way the saw runs. And I knew that it didn't sound like it was revving quite like it ought to. But there, like I said, there were about a half dozen people that commented, those saws really need tuned. They're not running right. Somebody said it was running really rich, and I could hear that. So I decided the next thing I was going to do is focus on that and fixing that problem and getting the saw tuned right. So got me a brand new chain, and then I also learned that apparently a brand new chain doesn't always come that sharp either. So I decided, well, I'll sharpen my brand new full chiseled chain, and I'll tune this MS250, and we'll see what a difference that makes. Now, my first cut with the poorly tuned MS250 on this log was about 21 seconds. And I made both changes. I sharpened the chain and I tuned the saw, but I can tell you with full assurance that the biggest difference came from tuning the saw. I could hear the difference as soon as I started tuning it, and I could hear it revving out and sounding like it should really sound. And we made several cuts here, and all of them were under 10 seconds. So tuning the saw cut my cutting speed time in half. In fact, one cut, I believe, dropped down into the 8-second range, which was only about 1 second behind my MS362. Now this is old dried out pine that's been hanging here for years. The fact that we took this saw and with the negative comments learned which chain we should be running and how to sharpen our chain and how to tune the chainsaw to hone in on the problem, we fixed it. And now I've got a good running saw to show for it. Now, you know, I could pout about being picked on in the comments, or I could say all these people are wrong, they're just making fun and they don't know what they're talking about, and just blow it off and go on with my life. Or I could look for the bits of truth in those comments and try to get better. And that's always the approach I try to take. Now, I'm not going to say I don't get annoyed by some of the negativity. And I will also say that if you're one of these people that trolls the internet just to leave negative comments, you should stop that. And you should just be helpful. If somebody came in the comments that really knows chainsaws and could look at this and see that these saws need properly tuned, leaving a nice comment that if you work on the tuning of these chainsaws, it will drastically improve your cutting speed, would be constructive, to the point, and very helpful. And I think most people get on the internet, and when they encounter negativity, they just go in lockdown mode or defense mode, and they miss the fact that there's usually some truth in the things that are being said. And that's really what today's video is about. Now, I wanted to share my excitement in the fact that I'm no longer feeling like my MS250 is a dog. Now I feel like I have two good chainsaws because I've got it tuned and running right, and I've got a good chain on it, and I know what it's supposed to be like. I know what kind of wood chips I'm supposed to be getting out of it. So now we're getting somewhere. So I share all of that to say this. It's okay to be positive and kind, but even when people aren't, it's okay to take that negativity and figure out what is in there that you can use to make yourself better. And that will make you a much stronger person, and you'll learn a lot more. You'll be a lot happier in the long run. So don't let it get you down. Learn from it and improve. So I'm at the point now where I'm feeling like I'm getting somewhere with this hobby of mine. And the fact of the matter is, This hobby of woodworking is something that I kind of got into just for content and for video purposes. I have access to all of this, so I felt like this would be a good way for me to use it and build my YouTube channel and consequently make a little bit of money on the side. And it's turned into a full sawmill sponsorship, making a little money on the side, get some chainsaws, have a good time. So it's just a win-win-win, as long as you can tune out the negativity. So if you're a content creator out there, or maybe you're just getting started on YouTube, listen, it's worthwhile and you can better yourself even when you encounter this kind of negativity and mean comments and all of that. So do your best to not focus on the negativity as a sign of failure, because it's not. It's a sign of an area where you can grow and learn. Failure is when you're just content to be wrong and content to run a saw that doesn't run right, or a saw that's dull, not learn how to sharpen a chain, and all of those things. That's failure. Somebody pointing out that you need to learn those things doesn't mean that you failed. It means that you've got an opportunity to grow. That's what you've got to keep in mind. I've really enjoyed this process, and it may seem silly to some of you who already know all about woodworking and cutting wood and how to maintain chainsaws and keep them running good and tune them right and all of those things. But not everybody has been around it all their life. Not everybody has been exposed to it in order to learn it and get to that point. So that's what we're trying to do here, and I hope you're enjoying walking with me through this process to get there. When you see things in my videos that I can improve on, kindly drop down in the comments and explain those things to me so that I can learn and work on it. And I'll always appreciate that. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Until next time, don't forget to get outside and enjoy God's creation. It's beautiful out here. Y'all have a good day.